The Candyman can because he robs you blind and makes the world... Wait a minute. Yes, our resident sugar-obsessed thief has joined. Gaius is the first thief that we recruit in the game. And as a thief, he is relatively typical. He has very high skill and speed, but the main thing of his is his massive strength for a thief. 60% strength growth is very good on a thief who isn't named Kellum. And the base there is quite high too. It's the same with his skill and speed base growth, so whatever class you change him to, he'll have very, very high strength. To put in perspective just how good Gaius' base strength growth is, it's as good as Stahl's, a character known for his strength stat, and only 5 points off Vake's, of all people. So, Gaius definitely hits very hard, especially with a +1 modifier to strength, which might not seem like much, but for a thief, that's a very big deal. Of course, he also has +2 modifiers to skill and speed. But with the strengths of a thief, of course, come the obvious weaknesses. Namely, his defense and resistance are very low, and with -1 to the defense cap, he's very, very fragile. But there is something else that is kind of a problem with Gaius. His luck. 35% is actually very low by the standards of luck growth in this game. His base luck is not that great either, and having -2 to the luck cap really sets him back. So, Gaius may hit harder than your average thief, but he'll dodge a lot less than your average thief. And that can sort of be a problem. Now, the thing about Gaius is, I'm not exactly the best person to really talk about him. Gaius was one of the few characters who I never used in my first playthrough of the game, mainly because he was one of the, sadly, forever alone males. The male characters who I never married to anyone, and thus didn't see much reason to use them. Hopefully that'll change in this playthrough. Gaius is the first thief who actually joins as the thief class, and as such he's very useful for his ability to pick locks right from the get-go. Movement +1 is also a very decent skill for him to have, as it will carry over into any of his other classes, and it's always useful. I mean, 1 extra space can be the difference between reaching a crucial enemy or chest or something like that, especially for someone like Gaius, who can easily use that to get to chests right before the enemy steals them. As far as promotion options go, you know the drill by now. Trickster is not that great on Gaius. We'll meet someone who's good as a Trickster later, but for now, none of the people who've had this class have been able to do it well. Gaius as a Trickster has -1 magic cap and a terrible magic growth. It's just not worth sacrificing a lot of his strength growth and a bit of his speed growth to do. It's just... he won't be that good as a Trickster, really. I mean, the skills are useful, though. Lucky 7's decent, and so is Acrobat. Acrobat could be quite good combined with some of the other skills that he has, but even then, he doesn't really make as good use of Acrobat as other characters do. I mean, Acrobat's better on people who have access to mounted classes, but still, yeah, we will be seeing someone who's good as a Trickster, but not yet. Assassin, on the other hand, well, firstly, reclassing to Assassin will, not so much reclassing, but promoting to Assassin, will make Gaius' growths better than they were before. He'll gain a bit to strength and a bit to skill and speed, so he's pretty amazing as an Assassin, but then again, Assassin is an amazing class in general. Not the least of which is because of lethality, which means the chance of an instant kill, which, given Gaius' high skill, probably is going to go off a lot. Pass is especially useful for a thief, because it means that he'll be able to slip past enemies to get to chests and things like that, so no enemy can block him from reaching his precious loot, or candy, or whatever. He also has the option to reclass to Myrmidon. Now, as a Myrmidon, apart from having fairly low luck, Gaius is basically a better version of Lonku. He'll have better strength and HP, and that means that he'll hit harder and have comparable skill and speed. Again, though, luck is a bit of an issue, so he might not dodge as much in this class, but with the evasion rate +10 skill, that helps in that area. Vantage is decent too, although it's better on people who have access to Wrath, or annoyingly, Gaius doesn't have access to Wrath, despite the fact that he does have an axe-using class. But, yeah, no Vengeance either, and it's better on more durable characters, so Vantage might be okay for Gaius, especially the Vantage lethality combo, but overall, it's an alright skill, but not the best. I've already covered Assassin, so Swordmaster. Astra is definitely a good skill. Now remember that Astra activating and making you get 5 attacks, that does not mean 5 lethality chances. Astra's chances of activating are calculated after lethality, so If you lethality, you only get one hit, but it's an instant kill. That being said though, when lethality doesn't go off, Astra's a pretty good substitute, having 5 hits, each at half damage, but they can individually critical. Combined with a high critical hit weapon, and that gets pretty insanely good. Swordfair is also a good skill, considering that a lot of Gaius' class options use swords. Really not that much else to say about it, but I mean, Swordmaster is a pretty decent class for him. I'd still keep him an assassin, but I definitely learned the 2 skills from Swordmaster. Both of them will definitely help him out in the long run. Now, Gaius' last class option is a bit strange. He actually gets Fighter. Reclassing to Fighter will give him a lot more strength. Sadly, Fighter's skills aren't all that good, but the extra strength in the class is certainly important, and he'll have great skill and speed though. His defense will be very, very lacking. From there he can promote to Warrior, and Rally Strength is not that great of a skill for him since it's the only rally skill that he has, though he can get into a good position to use it with his movement boosting skills. Counter also. Counter's pretty bad on someone like Gaius who has terrible defense. Well, I mean, it does mean that if he does get hit, he's going to counter back a lot of damage, so I guess it can be good that way, but I still think Counter's more useful for enemies than it is for you, sadly. Its other class option is Hero, yet another class that can use swords, and for that, Swordfair is useful. From Hero though, Gaius can learn Soul, a skill that will recover HP. This actually can be quite useful combined with a lot of his other classes. Although, with Lethality and Astra, it is certainly competing for that chance of a skill to go off. But it's a good skill to have, especially with Gaius' Frailty, considering that he'll be able to recover HP when it activates. Combining it with Vantage could be useful, because it means, in fact, combine that with Counter as well. Vantage, Counter, and Soul. What that basically will do is, Gaius can take a hit, well, he probably won't because he's somewhat good at dodging. With his low luck, he might get hit more often than usual. Gaius will take a hit, counter back massive damage due to, well, you know, having low defense. Soul will potentially activate on his counterattack and give him all that HP back, but if it doesn't, the next enemy who attacks him will most likely activate Vantage, letting Gaius go first and potentially activate Soul and heal himself before he gets hit again. This is actually a pretty good combination of skills, so Soul is something I would quite recommend for him. Axebreaker is alright of a skill, but really, Gaius doesn't need any more evasion against axe users than he already has. He's a thief and uses swords in most of his classes, so axe users are going to have a very hard time hitting him anyway. But Soul, again, definitely a useful skill. Though one problem, I wouldn't really keep Gaius as a hero. I'd much rather learn the skills and then reclass him back to other things, because Gaius has far too little defense for a hero for my liking. It'll only be a 35% growth in defense, and heroes are meant to be that balance between having decent defense as well as speed. Gaius won't really have that as a hero, so I'd prefer Swordmaster or Assassin for him. Now, as far as voice acting goes, Gaius has some pretty interesting trivia here. Gaius is voiced by Gideon Emery. Now, the interesting thing about that is that Gideon Emery is actually British, and yet Gaius doesn't have a British accent. Gideon is actually putting on a fake American accent for this game, which is actually pretty commendable, because he does quite a good job at it. And really, you couldn't actually tell. Also, most of the roles that Gideon has played in the past, he used his natural accent. Roles such as Balthier from Final Fantasy XII, that's probably his most famous role. But he's also Steve Fox in the Tekken series, and Commander Lawrence Nelson in The Wonderful 101, and various Imperial Guard soldiers in Dawn of War 2. For all those roles I mentioned, I'm pretty sure he uses his natural accent. So having him play someone with an American accent is actually kind of interesting to see, but he does a pretty good job at it at least.